Welcome back to Sledgehammer Horror, guys. I am Ken Sledge,
And I'm Ashley Sledge.
and let's talk horror. Now, today we are joined by the amazing Frank Durant. Frank, how you doing today, man?
Good evening. How are you?
We
We're
are
good.
very, very excited to be here.
Yes.
But before we actually get started, I would like for the people that don't know you to get to know you a little bit before we actually start talking about the project that you're working on right now. You worked in a video store back in the 90s, which obviously our hearts are there.
Oh,
I
yeah.
grew up in a video store. My mom and dad owned a little mom and pop video store called Downtown Video. So video stores have my heart. And you'll be producing your 30th film this fall. So we're going from working in video stores to producing and being a part of film. Was this like a natural progression for you, or is it something you always knew you wanted to be a part of?
No, I thought I was going to own a chain of video stores called Video 54. I had the name. And DVDs just came in, so they're all have great VHS, DVD. It was almost like a form of a Newbury Comics before Newbury Comics came. So I'll have comic books. I have like a cafe, poet slams, and then the internet came, and that just crashed my original idea. And no, I was very good. I remember a guy coming in saying, "Hey, you should contact Boston Casting," and I was like, "What's that?" He goes, "Well, they cast movies if you want to get into film." So I ended up joining the guild in 2002 and just trying to open up as many doors as possible, because you just don't say, "Hey, I'm here to be hired as a film director." Who's going to hire you as a director unless you've done a film? So it's a
Right.
catch-22. So I tried getting on the Universal Studios lot to do that, just to prove a point, and you can't even get to the front door to say, "Hi, I'd like to fill out an application. I'd like to be a movie maker." That's not a
They
part
don't
of the
let you in.
process. Right. So I just started doing film festivals, working for festivals, working for Comic-Cons, and just really, it's a collaboration form of art where you just don't do it yourself. You have to rely on great people, cast and crew in front and behind the camera to say, "Hey, I want to tell a story." And, if you want to be a painter, just go and paint. If you want a writer, go write. You want to make a movie, that's a true collaboration of bringing talented people together to tell a story.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Well, I mean, and you obviously have done that in a very good way, because you just did the award-winning documentary on the murder mystery known as The Lady of the Dunes. Something very, very important, and you were able to have this award-winning documentary. So we talk a lot about fiction and horror, but this is real life stuff. What was it like to be able to tell the story through this documentary?
Well, that's the thing. I've been trying almost for 5 years now, trying to produce a murder mystery series. And then I get approached by people saying, "Hey, you want to help solve a murder mystery?" I'm like, "Oh, I haven't done that." And that's what I think all artists want. They want the phone to ring and say, "Hey, we want to hire you to do this." And it's like, "Oh, wow. Thank you for, helping my ego." And that's what it was. I was approached, and my background too is I worked for infomercials for a very long time. So I was learning to create Apple quality at banana prices. So, Frank, if I give you $1, can you make something make it look $20? So working with great people like the Polanyi Brothers Entertainment, you have a very small budget. Can you make something big? And I think it was Mark who said, if they gave me, if the Hollywood system, you get $100 million to make a movie, it better be a good movie. That's $100 million. Because Mark could make 200 amazing movies with that $100 million budget. So that's the thing. And I was approached because it was a limited budget, but the goal was to really use my talents to actually do something to help, solve a murder mystery. So that was it in a nutshell.
Right.
Yeah.
And for those of you that want to stay up to date, I have all of Frank's social media links down in the description below, as well as the Indiegogo link for the movie that we're going to be talking about today, called The Girl Who Wore Yellow Lace. Now, we've said this on all our interviews, and I want to make this perfectly clear. When you're helping out an Indiegogo, you're doing something amazing. Are there great perks coming back your way? Of course there are. That's a good reason to help. But the best reason to help is you are helping art be created.
Absolutely.
Now, when we're, especially during, the big C, when we were all going through the quarantine, you really learned how special streaming services were, and the people that were doing indie horror films or just indie films in general, how they were still out there plugging away to try to keep us entertained while we were losing our minds at home. So make sure that you guys are following Frank on social media. The links are in the description, as well as, if you have the means, help out the Indiegogo. That link is down in the description as well.
All right. So can you give us a little non-spoiler synopsis of The Girl Who Wore Yellow Lace?
I'm gonna try. The concept came on the last day of filming with Mark Prolanier on the Rip Van Winkle trilogy. We did a horror film based on Rip Van Winkle film, and he said I always wanted to do a Giallo film. And I go, what's that? He goes, that's an old Italian 60s slasher film. And it's spelled Giallo. So I pronounce it Giallo because there's a G in it, but it's Giallo. And I looked at this, and like movies like Suspiria, films that use a lot of rich colors and lighting. And Mark's always wanted to do that. I love working with Mark because, you know, when it's a really good film, you see the kid in the candy store come out and Mark, he's like, well, I got a great idea. Let's do this. Let's do that. And so we wrapped up one film. We started going right into pre-production on the other one. And it's a typical, right from the genre. It's about a modeling agency. And one by one, girls in this agency become the victims of this masked killer. So fun. It's very colorful in the sense of using really dark red and blue lighting. And it's a bunch of eye candy being chased, and you got the gore and the blood, which you know the horror genre definitely loves to see. My big thing is I love doing things with a good story and a good plot. And I didn't have a script. I said, Mark, I know what the ending is. I told him what the last shot of the film, and he was like, I'm sold. I want to make the film just to do the final shot and the final scene of the movie. And a little bit of a whodunit. You're kind of guessing who the murderer is, and you find out right at the last scene of the last shot of the film. So with that, I knew how it was going to end, but I had no idea about the beginning or the middle yet. And came back, gave Mark the script, and he says, oh, God, when do we shoot? So with everything, we shoot this November.
That's awesome. So, you being the writer on this, what was your main inspiration for the film?
Go on YouTube and just Google what is Giallo. And I pretty much, there's no such thing as stealing in Hollywood, you borrow. So I borrowed a lot of great ideas from these 1960s Italian horror films. And said, yeah, let's include that. Let's include the masked killer. Let's make it kind of based on a modeling agency and kind of have more of a someone actually said it's more or less like a morale piece. I said, yeah, let's just do a horror film. Let's actually have a plot of like who the girl is, who's the protagonist, who's the antagonist. And a lot of people did not see the ending coming, and a lot of people assumed the worst if they actually lived a life of being a full-time model. And it takes one to know one. So if you're a struggling actor, a struggling model, struggling filmmaker, you understand what it takes to succeed. And sometimes you do the unthinkable to succeed. And this movie does include that. At the very end, I just thought, okay, do we have that collaboration? And working with Mark and a lot of his fantastic members he uses as a cast, I thought we got it. I'll write this character with this actor in mind and that actor in mind. So as time went on, I just said, we got it. We have the chicken and the egg. So what comes first? And that's a job as a writer, is to get all that on paper. So the directing and say, yep, I can shoot that.
Right.
Yeah. Nice. So what's the difference between the writer and being the producer?
Like for you, what do you think is like the harder of the two jobs?
Well, if you're the job is convincing to get the money. Producing is convincing. So you're convincing people to show up. You're convincing people to do things in front of the camera, behind the camera. You're convincing to get a camera on the set. I like producing. Writing is the more of the creative side, but as a producer, you're thinking, can I afford that spaceship to land in Act 2? Can I have 500 extras? Can I have that big of an explosion or a house set on fire? So you're thinking, yeah, I got $50. How far can I get, have that burn? So you want to stay creative, but you're also thinking, okay, 4 or 5 day shoot. Is that possible? How do we make this better? Maybe we don't show the scene and we just talk about it. Great. So we just saved a lot of money and time doing that. So it's the best of both worlds, but depends what you're good at and what you want to do with your life.
Absolutely.
Right. Well, and we talked a little bit about Mark earlier. For those of you that know, we have interviewed Mark Polonia as well, the great Mark Polonia. And you've worked with him on 5 different projects as of right now that have like big collabs. Does it get easier, like when you work with somebody so much and you become like attuned to them and their style?
Yeah, just because you can't communicate the same way with every person, every actor and crew member. You have to communicate differently. Just because you say, okay, I need you to be happy in the scene. Every actor is going to say, well, what's my motivation? So as a writer, you should be able to understand, who is this character? What are they doing? And and for people like working with crew, you need to understand it's a true collaboration. So you're not saying, "Hey, Mark, do this." It's pretty much,
Right.
"Mark, what do you think?" And 10 out of 10 times, Mark will come back. Any real good director, cinematographer will tell you, "This is the vision I see," and you got to work well with others. So yeah, this is the fifth film that Mark and I have collaborated on, and I just it's a joy to work with because Mark is not a dime a dozen. They broke the mold when both John and Mark, and there's also a level of respect because I've worked for a lot of people that I don't respect. You do things for a paycheck, you do things because you want to work with a certain celebrity, or like it's back, you need the money. But when you work with somebody that you truly respect why they got into film, how long they've been doing it, and also what's the end result, what have they produced in the last 20, 30, 40 years when it comes to both John and Mark. And it's great. It's a wonderful opportunity, learning experience, and I'll say it, a great friendship.
Yeah. And he is like you said, he is a very special guy. They broke the mold when they made him. He's one of those guys that every time that we've gotten the chance, even in passing, he's just the sweetest, kindest guy in the world. And we've been so honored to be able to work with him and, learn so many different things from you guys. And it really does make it a whole lot easier when you have someone, like you said, with a director, especially that's a actor's director or a writer's director that really takes a lot of input from what you guys are saying. Not just, okay, well, I'm directing it, this is going to be my way and that's it. When you have someone willing to work with you guys, it makes it a whole lot easier because it makes you want to work even harder for the guy.
Yeah.
Well, I always tell people, if you hear anybody saying, "Hey, I want you to work on this film, it's my baby," run. Don't walk, run. Because don't touch my baby. You can't name my baby. You can do things for my baby, but this is my baby. You got to know what you're jumping into. So for me, the script is always a blueprint. And along the way, as you're building that house, you may not be able to afford to put that window in. There's going to be only 2 levels. And that's the fun of filmmaking, of just coming together and telling a story. But you get those happy accidents. And when you have people who really show up with their A game, we worked on Fetus 3 and also the first part of Rip Van Winkle during COVID. And I seen people just being so grateful to work on a project. I got out of the house, away from the family, I'm doing something. And you just see an extra, even if you're doing a B movie, you see their A game come out. And that means a lot. People will give you their labor of love. Yeah, even if it's a crappy, low budget, no budget horror film, you got to take that serious because we're all coming together to tell something with the best of our ability. And I've seen that time and time again working with Mark.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So how involved are you on filming on set?
As little as possible. No, in my opinion, you're kind of like an on-call therapist on a film set. Your job is to direct and point and go that way, do that. But sometimes you want to be able to say, okay, what do you think? How you doing? Do you need more time? And everybody brings baggage to work. They bring baggage to their school, to family. And sometimes you sit back and go, I leave the bag at home, but maybe we can work with this baggage. What do you want to bring to this character in this scene?
Sure.
And it's always been a win-win because you know what the end game is. You just want to make sure everybody has the same goal in mind. So hands-on as possible, but when you can just let it all happen, it's wonderful. Then you know that the magic of making movies is a possibility.
Yeah.
Well, do you think that it's easier that way when you have someone like Mark and these cast and crew that you're so comfortable with? You start to really learn the way that each other gels. Does it give you that bigger trust in letting people handle their own things on set when you started to get to know them? Like I said, with the 5th project, it's not just your 5th project with Mark, but a lot of the same cast and crew. Does that make the trust level a little bit easier when you've worked with people for that long?
The T word is trust. Like if you trust your cinematographer, the guy behind the camera, you're not always looking over their shoulder. So when you have an idea of, all right, you're going to tell me and I'm going to tell you if we're not really 100% about this. And therefore, it's one less thing on your mind. And you're worried about the performance of the actor, or you're worried about making sure the script is being, verbatim. I've worked for people that just because you say something very fast, like I talk, you may have to repeat yourself a second, a third time. But once things are gelling, people do understand the theme and the style, and it just goes very quickly. And like I said, when Mark, for example, I've worked for some great people. They kind of have an idea even going there. They know what the script is. They know what the scene is. So they're taking it very seriously because their name is attached to this. But at the same time, I work for people. It's just they're there for a paycheck. I worked on one of the worst horror films, Ghost Lake. I think Hollywood Video says it was crap lake, and that was the review they gave. And I met this guy. He was a boom operator. He did like 300 films, and he would just drive around in his van and just do boom operating. That's all he wanted to do. And I was an AD, so I was like a glorified PA. I was bringing people tea, helping with film stock, helping with wardrobe. And this was like 2 o'clock in the morning in upstate New York. And the guy was like, Frank, do you know what we're doing right now? I'm like, yeah, scene 56. We're taking like take 30. He goes, no, we're not. He goes, yeah, yes, we are. He goes, no. Do you know what we're doing right now? I go, yeah, we're making a crappy horror film in the middle of nowhere. He's like, no, we're shining a turd. And I had to stop and say, what's going on? I never heard that before. He goes, Frank, say you find a piece of crap on the side of the ground, you pick it up and you try to clean it off, and you put it in a nice little box, you put a bunch of roses and you make it smell really nice as possible, and you keep it nice and warm, and you treat it so good. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter what you do. But he had been doing this for so long. It's like, I'm here from my scale paycheck, my cup of tea, I'm making sure the sound's good. But at the end of the day, no matter what you do to the script or the filmmaker or the actors, you're shining a turd.
Yeah.
And he totally lowered the bar, but he also kind of said, relax. We know what this is. Don't kill yourself. And to a degree, sadly, that's how it is half the time when you're making a film or working with people. It's like, all right, we know what we're trying to do here. I just been very grateful that I work with a lot of great people who believe in the project. And with that, if you don't have that, you're not going to get anything that's artistic or creative, because it really is someone's baby and people don't believe in that baby.
Yeah, right. For sure. So what would you say the hardest part of the process of making a movie is?
Not to sound bitter, but everybody told me many years ago, if you get the money, you can do whatever you want. You can start your own business, you can buy, you can sell, you can say, I'm a philanthropist. Yeah, because you have the money. You can be whatever you say you are. So when you take that element out, what can you do with low budget or no budget? And it is possible today now, because we all have cell phones. We all have a camera. We all have an opportunity to post something on YouTube and do a TikTok. So if you're competing with Hollywood, which Mark Polania has, and he beat out Roger Corman, you can't take that away from the guy. He did something with very little, and he got seen by millions of people, and he beat out the king, Roger Corman. So very few people can say that. He's been doing it for 40 plus years, which a lot of people can't say that either. So the bitter part of this industry is, you need to raise a lot of money if you want to do a huge film.
Yeah.
Hence, we all got Kickstarters and Indiegogos and GoFundMe. Right. But the second part of it, as a title of a producer, if you're a producer, you're trying to convince people, believe in me, believe in the project, believe in the screenplay, believe in this cast and crew. And every good producer I know is out there convincing people.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and it's these things where we are blessed at this moment to live in a time where we do have the Indiegogos, the Kickstarters, the GoFundMes, in order to have that type of help, to help these movies get made. And I know I said it at the beginning, guys, but we're getting towards the end of the third act. The credits are about to roll and the curtain's about to drop. But before that does happen, I did say at the beginning, the Indiegogo link is down in the description. And when you're helping out a movie like The Girl Who Wore Yellow Lace, you're getting a fun slasher in the giallo. I'm also going to say giallo, because that's what I've said my whole life. In that type of subgenre of horror, which a lot of us are big fans of. You mentioned one of my favorites, Suspiria. I know that's very vanilla, but that is one of my favorite giallo films, which I will always call giallo films forever and ever. And when you're helping to make these type of films, like you said, you're not doing this because, oh man, the studio called and we need $100 million to do the next Indy Jones film, or we need $200 million because we want to top the Meg. We're doing this because we absolutely love the project we're working on. We have all the faith in the world in the project that we're working on. And like you said about polishing a turd, what we want to do, though, in a movie, especially like this, where you have a unique synopsis, you want to go in and make the best indie film you can. And that really shows when you have people that are watching indie films compared to the people that are making Hollywood movies, like, remakes of horror movies just for a quick paycheck. When you're watching a passion project, it means, especially to horror fans, it means so much more than watching somebody trying to make a paycheck. So it really means a lot to us that you were willing to come on and talk about this newest project that you're working on. Now, I know you said you're planning on filming around November, but can you tell us some, before people check out the Indiegogo, can you tell us some of the perks to the Indiegogo?
Well, yeah, it's funny. We already have the money raised to make the film. The money we raised for the Indiegogo, it brings we are able to hire a very well-known B-movie actress who's been in a lot of horror films. So with that said, it does take another step of we make a really good movie, but then we also include a real Hollywood starlet that's been around for quite long. Some of the perks is you get to be a producer of the film, you get to be in the movie, you get to be voiceover or actually in the film. Our main actress is a TikTok, Instagram personality. She's willing to do an individual video for you, a shout out. So, you know, the perks are there that if you really want to attach your name and be a part of this project, and if you believe in the story and the people attached to it, there's an opportunity to sign away and be a part of the story. So, and I welcome that too, because I think there's a lot of great stories out there and a lot of great filmmakers who need that financial support to tell their story, to show their vision. And God forbid you get to really support a future up and coming filmmaker. And I love being a footnote in history. I got to work with some amazing talent. I got to work with Jessica Harper, who was also in that Giallo movie Suspiria. I got to work with Marilyn Chambers before she sadly passed away. So if I get to say, hey, I was a footnote with that one person's life, or I got to make my mark, I welcome anybody who believes in an individual artist or a story and willing to put their 2 cents to make it happen. So I'm thankful for that.
And I know it's cliche, but every little bit helps when you're helping art to be created. So
For sure.
on top of helping out the Indiegogo, if you want to stay up to date on the film and everything else that Frank has coming up in the future, also make sure that you are clicking those social media links and giving him a follow on social media. Frank, again, we really appreciate you coming on, taking the time to hang out with us. Please don't go anywhere. We have a couple more questions for you. Everybody else, if you haven't already, please like and subscribe. It really helps the channel more than you know. And follow Sledgehammer Horror on social media. All our links are in the description. But until next time, keep talking horror.
Stay who you are.
And we'll see you guys soon.